So this is just business, guys. It's just business. These guys are nasty.
Happy Friday, guys. And this short one is a sizzler. It's shocking. So many of you may be familiar with the importance of vitamin D, but this one is just going to blow your mind, I hope. So please comment below, subscribe and all that. Let's have a discussion on this one. So we all know how corrupt the pharmaceutical and medical industrial complex is, but what they've been doing on vitamin D is child abuse, effectively. I mean, you have a look and you tell me. So first I'm going to go through a very brief run through of vitamin D's importance and why. Really quick one, just a couple of minutes. But then I'm going to go into an excerpt from a session we had yesterday in metabolicduo.com, and I go through a shocking trial of mothers breastfeeding their children, and the revelations therein are astonishing. So I dare anyone to question what I just said. You will not believe how corrupt the industry is and what they're doing to the kids. So if you have kids, you're going to have kids, or even if you were a kid yourself, you just watch what they're doing. So here we go first with a quick intro to the importance of vitamin D. So here's one of the many studies I shared a few years ago in the COVID flu, and let's go into the details. So basically they found out that people with normal vitamin D, which is over 40 nanogram per mil, or over 100 nanomole, they had a baseline risk of severe COVID flu outcomes. And people who were sufficient, not bad, 30 to 40, they had around the same level of complications. Very low actually. People who were insufficient, 20 to 30 nanogram, it's getting a bit dangerous. Well, they had 2.5 times the level of severe COVID flu. And the people who are deficient, 14 times the baseline of the people who are normal in vitamin D. 14 times. That's like smoking and lung cancer. So this is obviously insane, right? If people were all up at normal healthy levels, the COVID flu wouldn't even have been noticeable in society. Imagine that. And there are loads of other studies. Here's another one. Normal vitamin D above 30. If you're insufficient, you had 7 times plus the severity or the risk of death even, and 10 times the risk of death if you were deficient. And this applies largely to any immune-related or chronic diseases in general. So you can imagine our authorities would want everyone up here, wouldn't they? Well, wait till you see the next segment. But we'll finish off here with why. Why can this happen? How is it so important? Well, I'll tell you briefly. So on the left here, we have someone at 30 nanogram or higher, right? A healthy human, naturally high in vitamin D. And here we have someone below 20 who has problems. And we know some of those problems I've showed you. Why is this person high in natural vitamin D? Well, they eat meat, fish and eggs and real ancestral nutrient-dense foods that are high in vitamin D. They also don't have insulin resistance, largely because they're eating proper real food and not processed food. And insulin resistance, if they have it, drops your D level, massively in many cases. These people don't have inflammatory issues caused mainly by modern food and lack of sun exposure. And if you don't have any inflammatory issues, your D will naturally be high. These people generally get healthy sun exposure without burning. The sun is an enormous source of health and longevity. And of course, these people maybe could have been taking supplements, but I would always focus, if I wanted true high vitamin D, on the real root causes. So there you have it, the importance of vitamin D across myriad disease states that humans can get into. And if you want a really deep dive from 2014, my D is for debacle talk is on the old YouTube. So you can look up my name and this title and you will get it. Knock yourself out. And if being low on vitamin D is 10 times the risk of COVID flu and flu outcomes and myriad other disease states, obviously it's critical for our people and especially our kids to be sufficient. But no, here's the distribution of vitamin D in the USA, and this is old data actually, and it's a disaster. People up at the 40 they should be at is only a tiny percentage of the population. So something's seriously wrong. And now let's get back to today's feature, breastfeeding mothers and children and the scam of the century. Okay, now you got the basics, a reminder. So now I'll give you the metabolicduo.com session, right, where I go through the work of Professor Hollis. And I explain it as clearly as I can, but I'll do a little bit at the end just to re-emphasize the findings, which are quite shocking.
Well, Hollis did the best experiment ever with women with babies. So the modern reality, and the mother, they like to give 400 IUs a day, which is nothing. And they do know and they acknowledge the baby will be deficient unless they get 300 a day, right? So that they know this. So the baby needs 300. Now, by body weight, 300 for the baby is like giving 6,000 to the adult or more. But they won't allow 6,000. They say 400 for an adult, but they know 300 for a baby. Now, isn't that interesting? Okay. And a lot of countries, the baby gets nothing. This was America at a certain point in time. Most countries, the baby doesn't get anything, which is a disaster. And Hollis, Professor Hollis said, well, hold on a minute. How can it be that they acknowledge that all babies need supplementation? There is nothing else in babies that they need supplementation. So why do they need supplementation? What did they do 100 years ago, 200 years ago? Why did they need supplementation? And the answer is, he suggested, was the mother's vitamin D is too low nowadays, but never really was before. But they won't acknowledge that the adult needs 4 or 5,000 or lots of sun, because that's political and economic. Okay. So what he said, well, tell you what I'll do. I don't know how he got past the ethics committee, but he did. We'll try giving mothers a proper 6,400 a day, which they'll need to supply their baby. And the baby will just give them breast milk. And we'll prove whether or not the problem is mothers are all too low in vitamin D. And he got approval. Vitamin D3, right, the circulating in the mother's blood, what they got at 6 weeks was the mother given 6,400 a day had D3 in the blood around 47. And the mothers who were given the 400 IU, needless to say, they only had 12 of D3 in the blood. So obviously they're way lower. And Hollis knew the D3 in the blood is what goes in the breast milk, not the 24 hydroxy, not the 24 OHD that we all measure. It's the D3 in the blood that goes into the breast milk for the baby. That's evolutionary. So you can see the mothers here, by only getting 400 a day, their D3 was rubbish. That's why the babies need 300, because the mothers are messed up. But his mothers had 47. So the mother, 25 OHD is 57. And of course, here, the mothers are 38. They're too low in 25 OHD, the measurement we make. But the key thing was the D3 is really low. And that's what goes in the breast milk for the baby. The baby in his mother's, where he gave them proper D, the baby was getting 46 OHD because they were getting the D3 from the mother's breast milk. And over here, the baby was okay at 43, but not because the mother was giving them it. It's because they were getting 300 a day, which is like 6,000 in an adult weight. See the trick, right? And then the milk activity in the mothers getting proper vitamin D was 782 IUs per litre, the milk, because the mother had proper D3 in the blood. And these mothers, 147. That's why the baby needs to be supplemented, because the mothers have a problem. But they'll never admit the mothers have a problem. And they'll never admit the mothers should be getting 6,400. They'll only, because they have to, because of legal accountability, they'll only give the baby 300. So do you see how bad the scam is? And he did this experiment and proved it. And no one would circulate it or acknowledge it, because the industry and the business will not acknowledge adults' vitamin D being too low, even though this proved, 100% proved, that adults should be somewhere around 6,000 and that adults should be proper D, right? At let me see, what was the mother's OHD? 57 nanogram. 57 nanogram. They say some of them you should be 30. And some even say, look, over 15 nanogram is fine. 57, okay? And again, I just emphasize with arrows here, because the mother got proper vitamin D, It gave her D3 in the blood, and it gave proper breast milk. And that is why all breast milk is now not fit for use with regard to vitamin D. They accept that because the baby needs vitamin D. So they're accepting all mother's breast milk in general is now not fit for purpose, even though it was for all of evolution. They actually are acknowledging this by giving the baby. And Hull has proved why, because the baby can't get breast milk with adequate D3 from a mother who's not juiced up with proper vitamin D. And that's it. So they have to give it to the baby because the mother can't provide it. Isn't this a simple story? Yeah? They won't allow it. Oh, there's the 5th month, by the way, 620 of breast milk D activity versus around 70. So he said in the 6th month, they were coming into summer, and these mothers were getting a little bit of sun, and it jacked them up to 138. But at the 5th month, while they were still outside sun, vitamin D season, that's how bad it was. 620 versus 70 in the mother's milk. Isn't that astonishing? The corruption and fraud that could lead to this disgraceful, misogynistic, if I might say, situation. And there's the summary, just for people watching the video can freeze frame, and I've kind of put a summary. An abject modern failure of understanding. Well, back in 2014, I thought it was a lack of understanding, but now I know better. You'll never convince a man of anything if his salary depends on him not being convinced. Okay, I will finish.
Yeah, and just to conclude, I mean, what is the chance that 3 of the big organizations around the world come to the same wrong conclusion and always the same direction? So the Institute of Medicine, the Endocrine Society, and whatever the third one is included in that paper. So actually, I see zero chance that this is just an accident, that all of them make mathematical and statistical errors and then base the recommendation on those outcomes. It's just crazy. And again, those levels that they recommend may be sufficient to avoid problems with bones.
Rickets.
Rickets. But when you need a properly functioning immune system, which you need for against everything, basically, not only infections, which you saw during COVID, but it's the same with influenza and fighting any infections, but also immune problems are the very basis of metabolic diseases. So you become much more prone to developing those diseases. It's just maintenance of the customer base, I think.
Yes.
What is happening here?
And there was a doctor, a genius guy actually, brilliant speaker. He's in Seattle. I tried to visit with him once, but it didn't work out. I forget his name now, but I'll find the video and send it on later. And he told a correct story of blood pressure, vitamin D, magnesium, and a few other things. And he told the anecdote that he actually knew someone within the pharmaceutical industry who was pretty head honcho technical. And he admitted to him off the record, he said, basically, a lot of the drugs we work on help with elements of the vitamin D pathway. And he said, that's why vitamin D is so frowned upon and pushed always out, because a lot of the industry, any drug effectiveness they have is often relating to accounting for or compensating somewhat for a poor vitamin D. And they know it. They know it. And that's why they influence and influence and influence. You got to keep the customer's vitamin D down, and you got to stop people talking about vitamin D. And in the UK last year, there was a proposal to stop doing vitamin D tests, that it was a fad and that it was a craze, right? So this is just business, guys. It's just business. These guys are nasty.
There you are, folks. They're downright evil, aren't they? And again, in summary, the mothers that get adequate vitamin D, which they don't want them to get, right? But the ones that get around 6,000 units a day are healthy sun or meat, fish, eggs, and all those proper ancestral foods. They have high D3 in their blood, and they provide adequate breast milk that keeps the baby fine and high in vitamin D. But they don't want that. So what they reluctantly allow is that we should give a few hundred units to the baby itself, okay, which is like giving 6,000 to the adult. And they completely bypass the absurdity that breast milk is only deficient and not fit for use in one thing, vitamin D. And hopefully I've explained to you how obvious the answer is. And they have to know this, of course, but it's not in the interest of the pharmaceutical industry, which needs the chronic disease, the autoimmune conditions, all of the health problems. They need those. That's their market. So they can't have people all being high in vitamin D or their market disappears. But don't you be left out, right? Playing along with their marketing financial business game, right? You make sure you and your family are sorted in this crucial area. And I'll just finish up mentioning once more my new app on health and weight loss, and I've loaded into the AI engine all of my material and knowledge from the past 12 to 14 years, including vitamin D, of course, and the psychology of weight loss, and all the metabolic science. The coach in the app will be with you anytime you want, 24 hours a day, will scan what you're eating, scan your exercise and what you're doing, and will always be available for questions. It'll effectively be like talking directly to me, because the AI will simply take the massive store of information I've given and then will respond to any questions pretty much in my voice. So great if you could support the app or even share it around to people who can benefit, or at least have a look through the website, studio.com/Ivor/weight loss. Link is down below. Check it out. Check out the videos on the landing page, testimonials down the bottom. And this can really, really help people. I'm quite delighted with it, actually. So thank you.